早上好. Yeah, how fun is that? Okay, to start off with, 对不起，我的中文真的不好. I mean, this is all 我的中文. I'm using it all now. 我不可以说中文. So I'm going to have to do this in English. I apologize. Thank you so much to Sherman Lin, to Tony Mo and Chen Shi Kwan for having us today. Congratulations to so many of you for your fantastic achievements in the CDP cycle last year. Before I start, I will acknowledge you rose to great heights to achieve what you did in the last year. We, CDP, changed a lot of things. We had to come into the modern time of 2025 when there are so many fintechs and so many other data houses, all seeming to try and gather the same kind of information. We brought together all of our questionnaires in one theme. We built an SME questionnaire for smaller companies. We changed our entire portal. You rose to great heights to deal with all of that last year. This year will be a year of stability. There will be no changes. You are very, very happy right now. But thank you for all of your efforts last year, and therefore extra congratulations to all of those companies who did so well last year. I'm going to remind you about the history of CDP. 25 years ago, there were 3 young people with an idea that environmental data could help companies make better decisions. The problem is these 3 young people founding a not-for-profit, CDP still is, and asking big corporations for their environmental data is not a winning idea. Why would you, big companies, listen to 3 young people with an idea for a charity? So the next idea that these 3 young people had was, let's go talk to finance and banks. You guys can be finance. You guys can be real companies. Because the financiers need the data from the real companies. And CDP will simply ask the questions that no one was thinking about back in the year 2000. And 25 years later, it is our 25th anniversary now, almost 25,000 companies disclosed to CDP. That's almost 2/3 of the listed market capitalization of the world discloses primary data to CDP to feed back to finance so that finance can make better decisions on where to allocate capital and therefore have an impact on the world. More than just finance needs this information now. Companies need this information too, so that you can also make better decisions, not just for the environment, but also for your commercial strategies. There are risks, there are opportunities, there are benefits to be found in this kind of data. That's why 330 large anchor buyers also ask their thousands of supply chain suppliers to provide standardized data for decision making. We've been here for 25 years now. We were founded with that bright idea in the United Kingdom, but up here you're going to see times when this kind of environmental data started exploding. In 2015, with the Paris Agreement, with the founding of TCFD, with CDP at the heart of founding the Science Based Targets Initiative. CDP was always there, When I said at the beginning that we were making changes to bring together all of our water questionnaire and our forestry questionnaire and climate change questionnaire, and now asking questions about plastics and biodiversity, that was CDP knowing what the future of climate science would bring, a need to understand not just carbon, but also nature and how it all hangs together. By now, disclosure to CDP is not an environmental thing to do. It is a business norm. That speed at which you see the graph rising there is how normal it is to business to try and measure their environmental impact through CDP. And some of the most interesting lines on there are the other colors, the orange colors, the purple colors, because they are different themes. They are plastics, they are biodiversity. And what you see there is that the speed at which that data is being gathered is also rising. In Taiwan, your numbers are even more impressive. I believe that 741 companies, 21% increase year on year, disclosed to CDP, so the momentum is still with you. But if you look back to what I described in the first place, where investors and big financial holding companies in Taiwan are asking for this data, over half of the largest financial holding companies in Taiwan are now signatories of CDP, asking for this information. Therefore, they see you. They see your companies, they see what your suppliers are doing, and they are very interested in helping you as well, because financial holding companies cannot decarbonize and cannot achieve their targets without helping their clients. We think of it as the uses of environmental data, and they break down in English to A, B, and C. A, being access to capital. Don't forget, just because your buyer is possibly asking you, your customer is asking you for this environmental data, don't forget that you could also access capital because your banks are very, very interested in helping you. They're not just trying to make money from you, they are there to also try and help you find solutions to your business problems. B is business competitiveness or intelligence. We're asking you questions that you would not usually ask yourself. And when we ask you questions that you haven't thought of, then sometimes you know and sometimes you don't know. And when you don't know, that is also valuable because that should make you think, maybe that's important. Maybe there is opportunity there. Maybe there is risk that I didn't think of before. And C is compliance. There is a great number of countries in the world now who are moving towards a very, very complex landscape of compliance. ISSB, TNFD, SASB, VRF, all of these things that I learned about in the past few years. It's complicated, but if CDP has already become a business practice of yours, we've been asking you these questions before. And so when you look at the detail of our questionnaire, and each question says this is fulfilling a wider purpose, a use case, this helps you understand your SDGs. This helps you understand your ISSB S2. This helps you understand your FRAG and your CBAM, enables you to compete internationally. We were asking you all of these in one questionnaire, but every piece of data is useful somewhere. You just need to understand why it's useful, and hopefully it will be useful for more than one thing. A, B, and C. Same piece of data, it's hard to collect, I know, but it can be used many times, and that's efficiency. So what do we see out of all of this data? CDP is at the heart of collecting data and at the heart of providing data. But we also have a team that analyzes the data and says, what can we see on a global basis? What are the trends globally? And here we launched a report which we will update every year from now on. This was presented for the first time in January at Davos in Switzerland at the World Economic Forum, the WEF. And on stage, there was a gentleman called Professor Johan Rockström. And if you know that name, then congratulations, you are educated in sustainability. He's one of the most brilliant scientists in the world. And he has published every single year from his Potsdam Institute for over a decade an analysis of the boundaries that Earth must live within. Boundaries being the limited resources that we have, limited water, limited biodiversity, limited phosphorus, limited nitrogen, the danger to us from climate change. There are 9 different boundaries. And the scary thing, if you read the science, is that humans are exceeding 6 of them. That's not good. But the amplification of what humans do to the world is corporates, which was what we were founded to do. What do corporates do? What is the real economy doing that's having an impact on the Earth? And how do we correct that? Because without the Earth, we don't have an economy, and we can't have nice ceremonies like this. And so we launched from the corporate data that we gathered a corporate health check. And the numbers why is the data that we have reliable is because, as we say, we represent 2/3 of the listed market capitalization of the world, the biggest companies in the world. And they are telling us interesting things that you can't see any country names there. That's interesting. It's a good thing I know this slide. That's a global average. Those are global and regional averages on which countries are actually taking disclosure information data and making it into tangible action. And what we find is that for the companies that actually have set targets and said, I will achieve reduction targets, I will do better, which is a commercially beneficial thing, because to do better environmentally is to save resource, is to save water, and therefore it's to save money. Then globally speaking, 1/3 of companies that have a climate target are actually achieving them. Because talk is talk, but actually doing it is harder. That's the column on the left. One of those columns, the second from the right, that's Taiwan. And now you're going to have to guess which the rest of them are. I'll tell you. On the left of Taiwan, that's the leading Asian country. That's got 41%. That's Japan. And to the right there, that's mainland China. So you're doing better than mainland China. You're also doing better than Indonesia. But on a global average, Taiwan is kind of along with the pack. There are a couple of places when we drill into Taiwan where you compared to the world, how are you doing? You are actually not doing so well when examining your scope 3. That's the bars at the top there, global average in dark blue, Taiwan in lighter blue, and making progress on all environmental indicators, you're kind of average along with the world. We in our report, our corporate health check report, we have looked at companies in aggregate and said we gave a category of 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 being, to be honest, you're falling behind. 2 being you're meeting the minimum requirements of you as a corporate, and therefore you're discovering just the minimum benefit of all of this. And 4 would be the kind of companies that are leading. And here again, you see a chart where disclosure is very strong practice in Japan, stronger than global average. And again, you see blue Taiwan, where you are sort of landing compared to others. Some of those kind of categories you will recognize from frameworks like TCFD. They're big things. They're big guiding principles. And the other thing that we find from analyzing this much data is where the biggest challenges are. Who's having the hardest time with which are the hardest things? Because the difference between a leading company and companies that aren't doing so well are the leading companies do the hardest things. If I were to ask a simple question right now, the first recommendation of TCFD, which is that your board oversees climate risk, everyone would say, yeah, my board oversees climate risk. That's easy. That's easy peasy right now. And every company says that their board oversees climate risk. That's talk. But is the world saved? Is the economy resilient? No, because that's an easy thing. What are the hard things? We identified the 4 hardest things which companies struggle with. And that's actually having a climate transition plan. If you were lost at sea and you needed to get somewhere, and all you had was the sun to tell you where to go, but there's no other landmark, you kind of know you have to go in that direction. And you know that you have to get there by a certain time. Good luck getting there. You'll be generally going in the right direction. But without a plan, without tools, without a compass, you're not going to get there. That's what a climate transition plan is. Acknowledging the problem. I have to get to a certain destination by a certain time. Not only just to ensure my company stays competitive, but also together to achieve our climate goals. Having a climate transition plan is actually a big step for a lot of companies. Having an internal carbon price, that's a challenge for many companies. Fortunately for us, when you bring together CDP data, you can see sector averages, you can see regional averages, you can get clues on how to do it better. Linking executive pay to climate performance, okay? That's a step beyond just your board saying, oh yeah, my board cares about climate performance. If they're willing to step up and say, pay me based upon whether my company achieves climate targets, watch how quickly you become a leader in this space. And finally, value chain. And we saw this on the slide before, that even Taiwan is falling behind in engaging your suppliers. And your suppliers and your scope 3 is so much greater than your scope 1 and 2, multiples greater, depending upon your industry. If it's 7 times, you're probably in manufacturing. If you're in retail or apparel, then that number might be 20 to 30 times scope 3 greater than your scope 1, 2. If you're in finance, your number is thousands. Your multiple of scope 3 from your financed emissions, investments, lending, is greater than your scope 1 and 2 by thousands. And we circle back now to why I'm telling you your banking partners want to help you. They have immense pressure to help you because they cannot achieve their goals without helping corporates. So go talk to your banks, find solutions. And then when you need a measurement system, we're right here. CDP is right here to be that comparable standard for you to speak the same language. So some lessons for Taiwan stakeholders. I think I've emphasized this somewhat. Strategy and planning. Make a plan. Make a plan. It won't be the best plan when you first start the plan, but make a plan. Things don't happen by accident. And value chain engagement. We can help you. We can help. The 300 of the biggest companies in the world ask for their value chains through the supply chain membership of CDP. All it is that thing that you were being asked by others, you can ask hundreds and thousands of companies under you, and then you're going to have a far better measurement of what your Scope 3 impact is. Banks as well. Banks can also ask their supply chains. Banks can also ask their financed emission portfolios. So what's next? Big numbers of opportunities. There's an increase in opportunities that are being revealed through disclosure to CDP when you look at it on a global basis. There's a huge amount of good news that is being reported by this 25,000 companies. They're telling us that they saved $13 billion from simply making better decisions that were related not just to environmental movers, but also through for commercial benefit. And every risk that you find and every opportunity that you find, you know what? It costs a lot less to address the risk. It costs a lot less to invest in the opportunity, and the benefit is going to be much greater. Every dollar that you put in will make at least $2 or save at least $2 or make up to $19. What kind of investment is that? That's a good investment by looking at this space and finding the risks and opportunities. And those kind of things feed through to stock performance. The A-list companies, if you look at them in general over a period of 10 years, A-list companies' stock prices have outperformed non-A-listers by 6%. That's why so many of your board is so keen on seeing you do well here and be rewarded here today. That story that I told at the very beginning, 3 young people thinking, we have an idea, we're going to ask some companies to measure their environmental impact. Why? Because of the power of other people, the power of other banks, the power of other companies. But you know what? When you're asked questions and you know more about yourself, you also know more about what you don't know, then you are inspired to do better. And here's an academic finding. Within 2 years of starting to disclose to CDP, if you've never disclosed to CDP before, if you've never before been asked these questions, within 2 years, you will start reporting 7 to 10% reductions in your direct emissions. Isn't that wonderful? By answering a questionnaire that makes companies know themselves better and they start reporting less emissions, that means that it works. Disclosure causes insight, causes action. If we don't do this, then by 2050, global GDP on an annual basis will be 18% less. We could lose 38 trillion in GDP from the global annual gross product, because so much of the economy of the world and our future and the future of our children relies on the environment. But if you take the opportunity now to turn your disclosure into actual business action and achieve some of those benefits that I have described. A, access to capital. B, business intelligence, causing better business decisions. And C, getting ahead of compliance. And we are seeing those trends. We are seeing more and more companies disclose to us and disclose better and better news. Then we can avoid that future. So thank you very much for your time. I do apologize again that I did this in English. You're going to get a quick translation from my colleague, Wan Yusung. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dennis, for your insightful talk. 那接下来呢，就让我们邀请 CDP 大中华区供应链和问卷辅导服务的负责人宋婉瑜来为我们的演讲来做一个总结。掌声欢迎宋婉瑜上台。
谢谢。那也谢谢，就是大家就是我们刚刚的这个英文演讲，然后我会简短的做一下中文的这个总结。我需要用 slides 吗？好，没关系。好，那今天呢，就是一开始的时候也是为大家去介绍一下25年来，然后 CDP 的一个历史。然后 Dennis 有讲到有一些因为他会脱稿演出，所以我也只好也一起翻译就是说，其实 CDP 25年前，然后我们从整个在一开始是3个年轻人，然后去创立。那我们有在3个有非常重要的一个罩山的一个使命包含就是说一开始呢，我们把这个数据呢连接到我们的金融机构，然后还有我们的采购机构。另外的话呢，是我们从气候然后转型进入到自然，然后接下来呢，我们也是成功努力的将气候与科学去做连结，包含是我们是 SBTI 的一个创立的伙伴。那今年 CDP 迈入了2025年，然后也是我们一个在揭露还有跟自然跟科学一起呢共存努力的一个非常重要的里程碑。那在过去呢 CDP 呢也是将环境的揭露呢把它推动主流化甚至是我们在现在也是看到了各样其他包含水、自然森林塑胶多样生物多样性这方面的数据 CDP 也在收集这些数据，也是把这些数据也要贡献给更多的一个环境的决策还有我们的科学。然后呢，我们也看到呢，台湾呢在揭露这边呢也有非常强劲的成长，而且我们欣喜的看到呢，台湾在自然这方面的揭露，包含就是说我们去年2023年的时候，前年2023年只有4家的企业是同时揭露气候、水跟森林，那今年呢增加到65家。同时我们也看到呢，在台湾呢强劲的揭露的背后呢，也出现了我们有1半以上呢是来自于我们中小企业的贡献，然后也让我们了解到呢更多的一个揭露的动能，也深入到我们的中小企业的伙伴。好，那 CDP 呢在环境数据这边有非常重要的一个信息，很多的企业因为买家我们的客户来邀请参与的揭露，但同时呢也不要忘记这方面的数据呢，同时在我们的 capital 在包含是像我们的银行、我们金融机构，它除了呢也是希望透过数据呢帮助我们的企业能够更好的去迈向我们强劲更有韧性的营运，所以我们在 CDP 的数据包含就促进我们更好的去打通我们的营运资本取得这个营运资本的管道，同时呢去用问卷来迫使企业去问平常不会问自己的这些问题，来促进我们的这个营运的效率。最后呢也是帮助企业呢更好的去迎接准备未来的更多的这个环境资讯这方面的一个规范还有法规。好，那这边有一页就是 CDP 呢，我们在今年开始每年都会去发布这个 Corporate Health Check 企业的健康的报告。那这边呢有几点呢是特别希望有特别台湾的一些介绍，那包含就是说我们有收入了2024年回复我们全完整版问卷的，包含300多家的台湾企业都有纳入这次的报告的分析之中，然后进行一个全球的一个对比，同时呢也是去了解我们企业在自然还有气候与自然这方面的一个数据在各个环境指标上面的一个表现。 好，这边的这页呢其实是讲的是说，去台湾有多少的企业它是在循序渐进的达到它的气候的目标的。那台湾呢是代表呢从右边数来的第二列，那我们台湾是第一列然后35%的台湾的企业呢正在循序渐进的达到它的气候的目标，这个比例呢是跟全球一致的，但是呢也是在亚太里面特别突出的，在比台湾表现更好的，包含有欧盟的欧洲的46% 的企业他们呢是循序渐进达到它的目标，同时呢是日本也是优于台湾的41%，但是呢，台湾呢，相较于亚太其他国家还有区域包含大陆、韩国还有新加坡呢，台湾都是表现比其他的亚太区域更强劲的。好，那台湾的企业呢，在这个环境这方面的还是有一些差距可以作为未来我们提升的领域，包含是说我们的气候的目标是否有覆盖到自身的营运，还有包含我们的价值链这方面呢，确实呢还略低于我们的全球的平均同时呢，是否呢在其他气候与其他自然的指标上面，是不是有提出进展那这一点呢是跟全球一致的都是大概只有10% 11%所以显示是说这个在全球范围呢跟台湾的趋势也是一致的，都是还是需要再进一步的提升。然后这边呢，这一点是说，有多少的企业达到我们这个 Level 4 Charging the Change， 就是最前面的一个趋势的领先者。那包含在台湾呢，在 Disclosure 这个 Disclosure 包含就是说，包含自己的范畴1跟2跟范畴3的一个揭露这方面最完整的环境影响的这个揭露上面呢，台湾呢虽然我们的揭露数量非常的成长非常快速，但是在覆盖整个完整的价值链的一个揭露上面呢，确实还有一个提升的一个空间包含是说在这方面的领先的企业区域是日本那台湾的企业我们还有特别去比较，包含是在环境的目标还有在这个治理这个诱因这方面台湾的企业确实在公司治理还有在高管的薪酬连接到这个气候表现上面呢，也是表现非常突出。但是呢，在这个策略还有这个转型的计划，然后还有是说确保自己每年在各个其他的环境的指标上面都有进展这方面呢，台湾在最后一个这个保持这个进展这方面虽然表现突出，但是在策略跟计划上面呢，确实还是有低于全球的一个情况所以呢这个是未来应该可以要多鼓励台湾企业多注意的是在这个去有一个计划，有一个行动的一个方案蓝图，来确保呢自己可以循步渐进的往未来目标迈进。好，那 CDP 呢，在这本报告里面也提出了4个重要的一个行动，我们看到最有利的一个方针可以推动企业的行动，包含就是转型的计划，然后还有内部的碳价，然后呢将我们的高管的薪酬连接到气候环境这边的表现，然后还有价值链的一个议和。好，那这边也是提到给台湾相关利害关系人的一些建议，包含就是说我们需要更多的努力，在我们达到我们的减排目标，同时呢，在我们的策略还有行动的计划上面要多下功夫。然后另外的话呢，我们也看到台湾企业虽然在整体揭露数量上面呢有非常多的突破但是在设定这个目标覆盖整个价值链上面确实还是我们下一个可以一起攻克的一个课题。好，那最后呢也是提醒我们的地球，我们的星球往往能够有一个推动这个改变的行动力呢，来自我们公司的董事会，您的董事会其实可以推动我们的改变，影响到我们整个生活的环境那我们也是看到呢更多的企业已经率先的迈出了行动，我们也从刚刚的颁奖典礼看到的，我们有非常多的领导者我们可以向他们学习。然后呢，也是请大家我们的揭露呢，其实有非常大的一个环境的影响力。从 CDP 数据来看就是参与揭露呢，就促进了每年的7到10% 的一个减排。好， 然后我们的经济未来其实我们的揭露不只是一个环境行动，而是攸关到我们的一个经济包含是说如何去对照我们未来10年的一个成功我们的非常重要的一步就是现在开始，欢迎加入我们的揭露。好，谢谢。
掌声谢谢婉瑜的说明，谢谢。